Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Just wanted to take this time to kind of tell you a little bit about who I am and how I ended up in front of you guys and what my journey was, so I can relate to all you guys. I'm just a normal guy. Yeah, basically kind of grew up pretty good childhood. Didn't have a father. Single mom raising two kids, me and my brother, who's older than me. Didn't have a whole lot of money. Was kind of raised in scarcity. And that was kind of the program that I would eventually run into my adult years. Just never really knew how to understand money. Never knew that I was running a program of scarcity and what was keeping me back. But other than that, for the most part, I was healthy. I was into sports a lot. My things growing up were skateboarding, surfing. I played the usual team sports: football, baseball, basketball, until whatever I got out of high school. But mostly skateboarding, surfing. I got into music, started playing as a bass player in punk rock bands, things like that. And art was always a passion of mine. That was kind of a God-given talent. I was really drawn to art, and I could always draw really well. As I got older, so I went to college at University of San Diego. And right away, when I started going into college, I managed to get through college. I graduated with a communications degree, mass media communications, but my heart and my head were basically in the water. I just loved the ocean, and I was very passionate about surfing, and really surfing was all I wanted to do. So I did manage to graduate, got pretty good grades, but as soon as I got out of class, I went straight to the ocean and kind of lived in a beach culture in our own little worlds. Down by the beach, this was like North Pacific Beach, Bird Rock, La Jolla, that kind of area, and anytime there was waves, I was out in the water. So it's safe to say by the time I was 19, 20, surfing was really all I wanted to do, and traveling for surf and meeting new people. So that was really what was driving me when I was younger. There was not a whole lot of money in it, and I didn't really care. But for me, it was finding ways to get money to travel to other countries to surf uncrowded, warm waves. And that's kind of what I did for a number of years. Alongside with that, I was just playing in bands, just house bands, punk rock bands, garage bands, things like that. Um, and kind of just was really not too career oriented. Just really kind of wanted to travel the world and catch waves, basically that simple, and do my art on the side. Wasn't too concerned about making money, and didn't have any money. Found ways to make my travels happen, and just kind of grew from there. And that kind of led me into my late 20s, into my 30s. Um, Went back into school in my late 30s, mid to late 30s. I went to the Art Academy in San Francisco. I was an illustration major. I was very fortunate. I got to live in some very beautiful cities, very beautiful towns. I lived in Santa Cruz for a while, Santa Cruz, California, San Francisco, San Diego, and I spent a couple years in Boulder, Colorado, which I thought was a really cool experience too. But anyway, when I got out of college at the Art Academy, I just didn't want to join the grind and pay $5,000 a month for rent. So I had some contacts over in Indonesia, and once I got out of school, I packed it up. Whatever money I had, I think I had like 2 or 3 thousand bucks, and just basically moved to Bali, Indonesia. I wouldn't say like 1999, somewhere around there, with whatever I had in my pocket. And as it turned out, I ended up being there for about 10 years. And I loved Bali, loved the culture. Eventually, I would have children over there. Both my kids were born there. So Bali was my home, and I was really happy there. And still kind of unconscious, I was happy and healthy. I was a good person and all, but how I got to be where I'm at today, I always think takes kind of like an event, an initiation, so to speak. Some people would call it a rock bottom event or a tragic or traumatic event. Anyway, brought my kids back to the United States to visit with my Balinese wife, and I didn't know it at the time, but anyway, there was an orchestration to separate me from my kids when I got there. So I ended up in kind of family court custody battles. This is around 2010 to deal with my kids, and a lot of other extraneous experience was happening. But anyway, I was on my own, just trying to fight to be a father and just trying to be present for my kids and to normalize their kids. But now I'm away from home, not many work opportunities, really struggling financially, and just struggling to maintain custody of my children when all of the odds were against me. And I don't know how I made it, but I kind of just was at the end of my rope and didn't know where to go. And I think at that point was when I finally just said, look, whatever I'm doing isn't really working for me. So I started to kind of look for other options. I had nowhere to go, no tools. I just, the information wasn't really out there back then. So I just went to a bookstore and I just started looking around. And one of the work associates at the bookstore kind of referred me to a book. The name of the book was called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I was at a point where I had to kind of surrender my ego, surrender, and kind of just let go and be vulnerable. So, up until that time, I wasn't a big reader, but I read the first couple pages, first couple chapters, and I became very interested in what the book had to say. So I started researching Dr. Joe Dispenza, his story, his initiation, his injury, how he overcame all of that stuff. And that's kind of what got me hooked. That was very powerful. And just to be clear, like I wasn't a guy that was good at math or anything. I wasn't seeking out quantum physics. It kind of found me. So at this point, I felt like I had a responsibility to that. So yeah, I just kept reading more and more books. I kept doing the work. The book would say, "Hey, do some meditations, do some journaling," and it just became really interesting. And I started to apply it to my own life. Through meditations and breath work and all those other things, yoga. I just started eating better, started taking a little bit more care of myself. When I was younger, I just thought I was kind of predisposed to, this is my fate, this is my life. And I had no idea that you could change your thoughts, that your brain was neuroplastic, that you could change your thoughts, where your programs are stored in your subconscious. I didn't know anything of this. I just thought I was just going to be a surfer that was just going to struggle through life financially, and this is what it was going to be. And my kids helped me a lot. I wanted more for them, so I really found it interesting, and I just really got behind everything. And I read, it started with Dispenza, but it moved into Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, other neuroscientists, metaphysics, astrophysics, you name it. I just couldn't get the information fast enough. And I just, Reality Transurfing was a great book. Vadim Zayland is the author. Just really interesting stuff. And I started to be an alchemist. I started to kind of practice the work. And, what I learned was you can change your life, you can change your reality. And yes, your thoughts do have something to do with creating your reality, but you're an active participant in creating your reality. That's how powerful human beings were. So I wasn't afraid to start experimenting with, the pineal gland and doing certain breath works to activate the pineal gland and 2-hour meditations, things like this. And, slowly over time, a key component to all of this is, I was very vulnerable. I was willing to let go of my ego and get out of the way. But just to practice, consistency was super important. That's how your brain rewires and refires. So I just was consistent. I was up at 4:30 every morning meditating, and I started to see notice a lot of differences in my life for the better. Things that I was kind of keeping my intention on throughout my day were actually starting to come true, and I started to see noticeable difference in my life. So I did see results. They don't happen overnight. You do have to have a belief system. You do have to be pragmatic. How is this going to apply to my life? But be the alchemist. And I dove right in, and wow, the information was super, super interesting for me too. And you know, I think there's no way you can change your life unless you change your energy. You have to kind of change the way you think and feel. And what does that mean? Well, I think the new information is required and new knowledge. So, I hadn't read a book since college, right? So all of a sudden, I'm reading a lot of books, really powerful books, and just really building my knowledge base, which was super good for my brain. And it became a passion of mine. I really just started liking it, and the information was super powerful, and I saw it was having effects in my life, and I was just really excited. So I would say that was my initiation into this work and coaching, and mostly knowledge and information. I think that's what I'm here for. I am, let's to be clear, I'm not here to tell anybody how to live their lives, or be any better than anybody else. This is kind of just what worked for me. And it's just really good knowledge, whether you apply it or not. It's interesting knowledge. And what I started to see, over the course of a couple months and things moving on, is just how much more conscious I became. I got a really good understanding of what we call the generous present moment, what it means to be present, how to stay present, because that's a practice too. But just practice being present, just little things, and that's another thing too. Is I started seeing that little victories added up to big victories or big outcomes. I wasn't just shooting for immediate gratification, and I would start setting intentions and trying to manifest those certain goals that I had, and I was having success with it, and it was very powerful. And what that did for me is it just got me more and more interested, and um, I just really loved where my path was going on. I could see how it affected my kids in a much more healthy way. I became a better father. I became a better wife. Um, so at that point, I was just on this path. A lot of it is science. A lot of it is esoteric information. I did a lot of studying of ancient history. The teachings of Thoth, the Hermetic principles, Hermes Trismegistus, all of it. The Anunnaki here. It was just all very interesting to me, and I found out that it's all, sort of interconnected. What's going on here, and what's true, and what's really not true. One thing I did understand was, one of the biggest lies humans have ever been told is how limited we are, and it's just not true. We are capable of really anything, and the human being is such a powerful uh, presence here in the universe. And the other thing I noticed was just how programmable human beings were. So I started paying attention, when I went out into public and stuff, and it was really eye opening. Not that I'm better than anybody else, but just noticing most people are barely present, running programs, reacting in those programs, and anger and separation, and you know those were good things. I wasn't reacting to them all. I was learning from all of that, and it really inspired and motivated me to kind of reach out, and if I could, give back the knowledge that I worked so hard for, give back all the practices that I put hours and hours of time. This whole process, this awakening process, if you will, is not all unicorns and rainbows. It's most of it's excruciating, because you're face to face with your soul. That's an awakening, right? And you start to realize that the whole time you were the problem. So practicing getting myself out of the way, which is my ego, and just kind of living in gratitude and presence on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. And it just helped. It changed my life, and I know for a fact I will never go back. I can't go back. And I'm just, my vibration is getting higher. I feel more powerful, and really all I want to do is give back. So the purpose of why I'm here on YouTube, our channel, it's all knowledge based, and I love everybody here, and I just want to, if it's possible, put some of my experiences out there, what I went through, a lot of the knowledge and the science backed knowledge that I studied, how it benefited me, and just to give back. My goal is to build a beautiful community of people that are trying to raise the consciousness here on planet Earth, and in doing so, becoming the example. I think overcoming things in your life is the path to becoming, and I think that's the whole work, the work that we're here to do on in this third dimension. So that's why I'm here. I figured YouTube would be a great platform for me to get this information out. I will approach this whole thing very vulnerable, very authentic. I'm no different than anybody else, and I just want to be an example of what an uncommon human is doing, or a very common human doing the uncommon, and there's hope for everybody. This work is for everybody. And I think if you just love yourself enough and put some work in and apply, and and be willing to step out of your comfort zones and really understand the science and practice it. If you read a book and it says, hey, write down some thoughts and journal it and then do a meditation, don't cherry pick the process. Go jump head in and have a good belief system. Always be grateful, and believe in the process and believe in yourself. I think investing in yourself is not selfish. It's a form of true love. And at this point in my life, I just think the more I put into myself, the more other people can get out of me. My goal is to be the best expression of myself I can be every day. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. I don't want to go too long-winded about it, but the knowledge that I'm going to be delivering over the next, probably from now until ever, is going to be super valuable. It's for anybody. Whoever's out there that's feeling stuck, don't feel that bad, because there are solutions. There's always a solution. You just got to love yourself enough to be disciplined, to be consistent, to love yourself enough to do the work. Think about it. The whole thing's stopping most people from doing a meditation. They all say the same thing, is they don't have enough time. Well, what does that say about you? If you don't have 30 minutes a day, just to tune out and, kind of connect with the unified field and become nothing, and just kind of recenter yourself. If you don't have 30 minutes a day for yourself, what does that tell you about, how you feel about yourself? I mean, I think each day we should love each other enough to, invest at least an hour, into our days. But not, if you're stuck, or you're looking for other answers, nothing's going to change in your life until you change your energy. And those are your thoughts and your feelings, and your personality. I mean, all those things have to change. Nothing, you can't change anything in your life by being the same person, right? But anyway, Robert Christopher here, very authentic, very vulnerable. I'm just trying to reach out and touch as many people as I can, give back all of the knowledge and struggle that I went through. We're all here for each other. We're all connected. We're all unified. We have to keep that mindset. I think it's important to radiate gratitude, and just to be alive, and realize that each one of us is special. There's no two humans alike. That alone makes everybody special. So don't ever forget that, and just keep going. Don't ever feel like there's no hope for anything, because I'm a perfect example of that. I didn't start this process or this practice till well into my 30s, and I look back and wish I had known or had access to this information in my 20s. God knows what would have happened to my life. But point is, never too late. But yeah, that's me. That's the story of Robert Christopher, the conscious creator. I'm very grateful for all of you. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions about my life and how I did it, that worked for me, and that might not work for you. But it's all knowledge based, and it's how you guys use the knowledge. But I'm always here. I'm always available, and I'm happy to respond to anybody. So, keep fighting the good fight, everybody. I love you all, and take care. And we're always here and available for you guys to, if you have any questions or you're feeling stuck or anything like that. So thanks again. Have a good one.